The music wasn't music. It was a physical thing, a dull, concussive pressure against the sternum, a subsonic throb that vibrated up through the worn soles of her combat boots and settled as a low, persistent headache behind her eyes. It was the soundtrack of deliberate, expensive excess, designed to drown out thought and elevate impulse. This place, the Gilded Cage, was everything she spent her life fighting against. Superficial, structurally unsound, relying entirely on facade. Outside, the air was thick with humidity and the synthetic scent of wealth, a nauseating blend of custom-blended colognes, expensive hairspray, and the faint, unsettling whiff of stale cigarette smoke clinging stubbornly to the velvet ropes. The lighting was surgical, harsh white spotlights trained on the entrance, designed to showcase the curated desperation of the line and the impenetrable, obsidian-like glamour of the VIP door. She stood out, not intentionally, but inevitably. Everyone else was draped in silk, tailored carbon fiber, or the painful sheen of high-end synthetic fabrics. She wore a pair of faded cargo pants, the kind that had seen sand and snow in equal measure, a heavy, nondescript field jacket cinched tightly at the waist, and a pair of boots whose laces were frayed and whose leather bore the scuffs of unforgiving terrain. Her face, framed by dark hair pulled back severely, was a map of operational fatigue, drawn tight across high cheekbones. She hadn't slept for 48 hours, and the only thing keeping her vertical was the iron discipline forged over 2 decades of high-stakes, low-oxygen environments. She needed to be invisible, but here, invisibility required blinding brightness. She was a shadow in a room built of mirrors. The clock was ticking. She had 40 seconds before her window closed, 40 seconds to make contact and retrieve the package before the satellite moved out of optimal range. The gatekeeper stood before her, Marcus. He wasn't a man. He was a slab of granite poured into a custom-tailored suit that strained across his immense shoulders. His neck was a thick column, his jaw set in permanent aggressive boredom. Marcus was the physical manifestation of the club's arrogance. He smelled powerfully of cheap, aggressive aftershave and something metallic, perhaps the lingering scent of old money or fresh malice. His job wasn't security. It was rejection. It was power projection. She walked straight toward the entrance, ignoring the velvet rope and the snaking line of hopefuls desperate for the curated misery of the VIP section. The bass dropped again, shaking her teeth. Marcus shifted, blocking the narrow passage with the casual indifference of a landslide. "Hold up," Marcus grunted. His voice was gravel, amplified by the heavy bass. He didn't look at her face. He looked at her boots, then dismissively up at her worn jacket. His gaze contained a toxic mixture of contempt and instant dismissal. She stopped precisely 2 feet away, close enough to convey intent, far enough to avoid any aggressive contact, at least initially. "Vance, priority entry. I need General Rex now." Her voice was low, flat, utterly devoid of inflection. It was the tone reserved for reading coordinates in a radio blackout. Concise, undeniable. Marcus chuckled. It was a wet, ugly sound that required minimal muscular effort, relying instead on the cavity of his enormous chest. He didn't bother to ask for identification. He didn't even bother with a proper sneer. It was pure, distilled arrogance. "Priority entry. Look around, sweetheart. This is VIP. You look like you got lost on the way to a camping trip. Maybe try the loading dock around back. They got cheap beer and a few guys who appreciate the rugged look." He let the word rugged hang in the air, dripping with sarcasm, eliciting a smattering of nervous giggles from 2 peroxide blondes attempting to eavesdrop discreetly from the queue. Vance didn't react. Her operational training dictated that the path of least resistance was always preferred. She reached into the inside pocket of her jacket, not quickly, but with a deliberate, slow motion that was intended to telegraph her movements. She retrieved a thin, matte black card, utterly unmarked, devoid of logos or identifying text. It was heavier than it looked, weighted with tungsten. She extended it toward him, allowing the harsh spotlight to catch the faint sheen of the material. "This is time-sensitive," she repeated, her gaze locked on his eyes. They were muddy brown, lazy, reflecting the flickering neon sign above them. "Show this to Rex. He needs to see it." Marcus didn't take the card. He merely tilted his massive head, squinting slightly. He didn't see credentials. He saw a flimsy attempt at bluffing from a desperate civilian who clearly didn't belong. He saw an opportunity for a display of power, a moment to reinforce his dominion over the entrance. He let out a short, barking laugh. A black card? Oh, wow. Did you print that out at Kinko's? Comrade, listen, I don't care if you're carrying the Declaration of Independence. Dress code is strictly enforced. Now, move along. You're scaring the clientele, and you're certainly blocking the view. The calmness in Vance wasn't relaxation. It was the intense, pressurized stillness of a high-grade explosive waiting for the detonator. Inside her mind, the mission clock had ticked past 30 seconds, and her brain was running a rapid simulation of forced entry protocols. Option 1, de-escalation, failed. Option 2, disabling Marcus non-lethally. High collateral risk, 6-second execution time. Option 3, wait for Rex to realize the comms blackout and initiate contact himself. Unacceptable risk. She withdrew the black card slowly, slipping it back into her pocket. The metallic click of the card against the ceramic plate underneath her jacket was imperceptible to anyone else, but the sound resonated in her ears, reminding her of the layers of protection and readiness beneath the civilian veneer. Vance lowered her chin slightly. Her focus sharpened, not with anger, but with the cold, necessary clarity of a surgeon examining an obstacle. She noticed the slight tremor in Marcus's left hand, a nervous habit masked as impatience. She noted the expensive, brittle sheen of his dress shoe, perfect leverage for a heel strike. Marcus, she said, using his name, pulling it out of the air like a thread of silk. She hadn't read his name tag. She had cataloged his presence, his pattern, his gait, and his communications with the other staff 2 minutes prior. This minimal display of knowledge was intended as a subtle warning shot. It landed nowhere. Marcus only saw the tired woman in the cheap jacket. He saw fear disguised as stoicism. He saw her attempt to reassert control, and he decided to crush it. He leaned in, his bulk overwhelming, the aggressive scent of his cologne suddenly suffocating. You know my name? Good. Now you know who told you to get lost. He paused, enjoying the silence of the immediate vicinity. And just so we're clear, this is my club, my house, my rules. You don't have a right to talk to anyone inside, and you certainly don't have the right to waste my oxygen. He reached out. His mistake wasn't the insult or the dismissal. His mistake was touching her. He reached out with his massive right hand, intending to grab her shoulder and physically pivot her 180 degrees back toward the street, demonstrating to the waiting line that the system was unyielding, that the gatekeeper was absolute. His fingers closed not on her shoulder but on her upper arm, right above the bicep. The contact wasn't a gentle guide. It was a proprietary clamp, a show of force designed to intimidate and humiliate. The moment those fingers tightened, a seismic shift occurred in Vance's demeanor. It wasn't visible in her face, which remained frozen in operational neutrality, but it was palpable in the sudden, absolute stillness of her body. Every muscle fiber went taut, transforming her frame from a tired woman into a single, kinetic spring loaded for release. In the military world she inhabited, physical contact was either lethal or intensely intimate. It was never casual. And this grip, this aggressive, disrespectful claim over her personal space, triggered a deep, primal circuit breaker. Marcus, feeling the unexpected hardness of her arm beneath his grip, misread it as tension, perhaps latent defiance. He tightened his hold, a slight involuntary tremor of predatory satisfaction running through his own musculature. He was about to deliver a rough shove that would send her stumbling into the crowd. But before he could move, before Vance could execute the precise downward elbow strike that would shatter his radius bone and simultaneously dislocate his shoulder, a movement she calculated would take 0.7 seconds, a new presence erupted onto the scene. A man burst through the velvet rope from the inside, moving with a velocity that defied his expensive attire. He was mid-50s, impeccably tailored in a dark three-piece suit, silver hair slicked back, carrying the unmistakable air of command, but command worn comfortably, not desperately. This was General Caleb Rex, the owner of the Gilded Cage, and once, years ago, the commander of the Joint Special Operations Task Force in the harshest theater on Earth. Rex was talking urgently into a discreet earpiece, his face etched with frustration and focus. He was clearly looking for someone, pacing the immediate entrance, blind to the surrounding opulence, blind to the line, completely absorbed in whatever internal crisis required his immediate attention. He ran straight toward the altercation, not noticing Vance, but noticing Marcus's massive frame blocking the access point he needed. "Move, Marcus! I need the clear line of sight now!" Rex barked, his voice sharp and authoritative, cutting through the bass like a cracked whip. Marcus, startled by his boss's sudden, chaotic appearance, hesitated, his grip still clamped on Vance's arm. "Sir, this woman, she's trying to—" Rex finally looked up, his frustrated gaze snapping directly onto the woman Marcus was restraining. The world stopped. For Vance, the deafening bass of the club seemed to suddenly cut out, leaving behind a ringing, unnatural vacuum of silence. For Marcus, the heat of the humid night vanished, replaced by a sudden paralyzing ice spreading from his gut outward. Rex's eyes, the eyes that had once held the lives of thousands of elite soldiers, widened instantly. The frustration melted away, replaced first by profound shock, and then by something akin to absolute, unadulterated terror. Rex didn't blink. He saw the face, the deep, almost invisible scar that ran from her left temple, tracking down beneath her hairline and vanishing beneath the collar of the field jacket. A wound earned during the unforgiving crate operation. A wound only 3 people alive knew the true story of. He saw the operational fatigue, the relentless focus in her eyes, and the sheer physical weight of responsibility she carried like armor. He didn't see the woman in the cheap clothes. He saw the legend. He saw the only person who had ever successfully led a joint forces extraction through 3 hostile territories while suffering a catastrophic loss of communications. He saw the strategic mind that had saved his career, and likely his life, years ago in a dusty, forgotten corner of the world. He saw his former superior. General Rex moved with a speed that startled even Vance. He didn't use his voice. He didn't stop to apologize. His priority was immediate mitigation of Marcus's cataclysmic error. With a primal roar that was instantly swallowed by the returning rush of club noise, Rex slammed his body into Marcus's side. It was a vicious hip check, delivered with the desperate power of a man trying to stop a runaway freight train. Marcus, caught entirely off guard, staggered sideways. His hand was ripped away from Vance's arm as he fought to maintain balance against his boss's inexplicable violent intervention. The crowd in the line gasped, the whispers instantly dying in their throats. They had never seen the owner, the impossibly composed General Rex, lose control. Marcus recovered, his massive face contorted in confusion and immediate rage. "Sir, what the hell? I was removing a trespasser." Rex ignored him. He pivoted away from the stunned bouncer, his posture snapping instantly from aggressive assault to rigid military precision. The movement was instinctive, etched into his nervous system through decades of service. He fixed his gaze entirely on Vance. His silver hair seemed to catch the spotlight, and the sheer panic radiating off him was a palpable force. Without uttering a single word of apology or explanation to the stunned crowd, General Caleb Rex, the ruthless, celebrated commander, the owner of a multi-million-dollar empire, dropped his chin slightly and performed a textbook, deep, formal bow, the kind reserved only for visiting heads of state or the rarest of military heroes. The motion was total. His back was straight, his shoulders square, his hands clasped tightly behind him. It was a gesture of profound respect, deference, and near worship. Then, just as quickly, he snapped his shoulders back, his right hand whipping up in a blindingly fast, perfect salute, the index finger pressed cleanly against his temple, the eyes straight ahead, locked in respect. His voice, usually booming with civilian confidence, was now a rough, strained whisper, audible only because the world surrounding them had suddenly gone absolutely silent, the bass momentarily yielding to the shock of the performance. "Commander," Rex choked out, the single word carrying the weight of untold history, untold battles, and unspeakable respect. "Viper 1, I apologize profoundly. I didn't expect you here. This civilian, this insult is unacceptable." The line froze. The music, which had seemed so vital and omnipresent moments before, now felt like a secondary irritation. Everyone was watching Marcus. Everyone was watching the woman in the dusty tactical pants. Marcus, the bouncer, the mountain of controlled aggression, stood utterly still. His blood ran cold. The color drained so completely from his face that the residual ruddy flush of exertion vanished, leaving behind a sickly pale gray. He didn't understand the bow. He didn't understand the salute. But he understood the look in Rex's eyes, a look that screamed, "You have just committed professional suicide, and perhaps actual suicide." He looked again at the woman he had dismissed as a cheap hiker. He saw the deep, disturbing stillness in her eyes. He saw the way her field jacket hung, concealing the hard lines of muscle and the barely perceptible outline of the trauma plates underneath. He realized the weight of the hand he had aggressively clamped onto. He hadn't held a woman's arm. He had held a hardened, polished instrument of war. The title Commander echoed in the unnatural silence. Not a manager, not an executive, but Commander. And the way Rex had said it, like reciting a sacred oath. Vance watched Marcus's psychological breakdown with detached professional interest. His eyes flickered desperately between her and Rex, searching for an escape route, a denial, anything that could undo the last 30 seconds. There was nothing. He had acted on pure hubris, and the universe was presenting the bill. Vance finally broke her stance, the movement minimal but instantly commanding. She didn't return the salute. She hadn't earned that rank in the way Rex had, yet she commanded the respect due to her operational designation. Her eyes flicked past Rex, briefly registering the immense shame etched on his face, and then settled back on Marcus. She didn't smile, she didn't gloat, and she didn't raise her voice. "General Rex," she said, her voice still low, flat, and carrying that disturbing lack of inflection. "The timing is critical. Your communication blackout required immediate in-person resolution. I need the package now. Bring me Colonel Tierney." Rex's momentary paralysis shattered. He snapped into action, the operational urgency overriding his personal humiliation. "Tierney, on the double! Get the commander her manifest! Now!" Rex roared, not at Marcus, but at an unseen assistant inside the club. He didn't question her authority or her request. Her appearance was the ultimate clearance. Rex turned back to Vance, his posture still rigid. He kept Marcus squarely in his line of sight, ensuring the bouncer remained immobilized. "Commander, my deepest apologies for the unprofessionalism of my staff. I assure you, this will be handled. Severely. Are you injured, ma'am? Did he cause you any distress?" Rex's concern was genuine, fueled by fear of the potential repercussions of offending someone of Vance's operational importance. Vance simply looked at Marcus. The bouncer was trembling now, a barely controlled shake running through his massive frame. He knew, with absolute certainty, that he had ended not only his job, but possibly his entire post-military career, just because he wanted to feel powerful for a moment. Vance raised her previously gripped arm, turning her wrist slowly so the harsh light illuminated the smooth, dark skin. There was no mark, no redness, but the action spoke volumes. It reminded Marcus exactly where his aggressive fingers had been. "No distress, General. Only inconvenience," she stated. Then she looked straight into Marcus's terrified, pleading eyes. "You chose to enforce a ridiculous, meaningless code against a priority access asset. You chose arrogance over awareness and aggression over discernment." Her words were delivered like surgical strikes, devoid of anger, merely cataloging his fatal errors. "That mistake is costly, Marcus. In my world, it costs lives. In yours, it costs everything else." Marcus tried to speak. He opened his mouth, a pathetic, strangled noise escaping his throat, but no words would come. Rex didn't wait. He stepped forward and delivered a quiet, absolutely devastating final order. "You're done, Marcus. Clean out your locker tonight. If you ever show your face near this establishment or any other in the district, I will ensure every door is closed permanently. Now get out of my sight. Now." Rex didn't even wait for him to comply. He turned his back on the disgraced bouncer, ushering Vance through the now wide-open VIP entrance with frantic deference. "Please, Commander, come inside. We have a secure room immediately available. The package is being retrieved." "What can I get you? Water? Coffee? Something stronger?" Rex's voice was buzzing with renewed energy, the sudden opportunity to be back in an operational mindset, serving his superior. Vance stepped past the velvet ropes. The opulence inside was blinding. Crystal chandeliers, mirrored walls, the thick, sensual scent of leather and rare wood. The crowd inside, sensing the profound shift in the energy at the entrance, watched her passage with captivated confusion. She paused just inside the threshold, looking neither right nor left, ignoring the dozens of curious stares. The mission was not complete, but the hurdle was cleared. "I need 3 things, General," Vance said, her voice carrying just enough to cut through the muffled bass now filtering back into the room. 1. Colonel Tierney now. 2. The secure manifest, fully encrypted. 3. She paused, and for the first time, a small, weary flicker of something almost human crossed her face. 3, General, I need a clean slate. I need the kind of silence that kills whispers. Ensure that what just happened outside never existed, especially for that poor bastard. She nodded subtly toward Marcus, who was still standing frozen outside, a statue of humiliation, watching his career dissolve in the shimmering light of the VIP entrance. Rex was momentarily surprised. Clemency? After such a catastrophic display of disrespect? Commander, with all due respect, he laid hands on you. His arrogance was unforgivable. Letting him walk away, it sets a precedent. Vance finally turned, meeting Rex's gaze. The exhaustion was heavy in her eyes, but the resolve was heavier still. He made a mistake rooted in ignorance, Rex. He didn't recognize the uniform because I'm not wearing one. I don't need his fear, I need his silence. And more importantly, I need every single witness in that line and on your payroll to understand one fundamental principle. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the staff, the clientele, and the lingering figure of Marcus just beyond the shimmering barrier. Respect is not granted by the clothes you wear or the car you drive. It is not bought with velvet ropes and spotlights. It is earned through sacrifice, calibration, and the willingness to carry burdens no one else can see. She took one final deliberate look at the terrified, destroyed figure of the bouncer. He had learned the lesson in the most humiliating way possible. His punishment was complete. Vance turned fully toward the secured hallway Rex was indicating, her worn boots tracking a faint line of dust across the polished Italian marble floor. She was focused now, back on the operational objective, the incident already filed away as an unfortunate, necessary delay. Bring me Tierney, General. We're already 30 seconds behind schedule. Rex immediately followed, already barking commands into his earpiece, the weight of his civilian empire momentarily forgotten in the rush of serving his commander once more. The massive club owner, Marcus, was left standing alone in the harsh, isolating spotlight, surrounded by the sudden, curious silence of the crowd, a silence that screamed the lesson he had just learned, a lesson written in the agonizing realization that he had grabbed the arm of a ghost, a legend, and the wrong kind of force multiplier. He was small, irrelevant, and utterly ruined. The commander walked deeper into the labyrinth of the gilded cage, the scent of gunpowder and distant deserts momentarily overwhelming the manufactured perfume of the rich. She did not look back. Her mission was the only thing that mattered. If you believe respect is earned by blood and not by rank, type respect in the comments.